Hello, everybody. I know I'm about a minute early. The first thing that's happened early all day. Had a little Mercury retrograde problem with some electronics heating and cooling unit, and it took up a great deal of the day. But I'm on. I don't like to say I'm going to do something I'm not going to do. So here I am, and I want to speak to programming in humanity. And might as well start with the little Mercury retrograde thing. I was into astrology at a very young age, so I started my own programming with that about the age of 12. And so I hooked into a reality which may not be the best reality, that Mercury retrograde means electronic problems. And it doesn't always really mean that. And retrogrades are actually something that's caused by a warp. So, a spatial warp. And the planet's not actually turned backwards, moving the other direction. It is a great opening for doing research into communication, information, records. Really awesome for doing past life pieces. But that was a piece I inserted myself into my programming. What I really wanted to speak to was the deprogramming and the fact that programming is, you can believe it or not, anybody can believe or not believe what they choose to in their beta and gamma mind. They can project their beliefs into the future. But what you really believe, the core beliefs, are in your subconscious. And human beings do not come in instinctually hardwired for too very many things. So they have to be programmed. It's a known fact. If you have a baby, you've got to teach it how to drink. You take the bottle or the breast to drink from a cup, then a glass. Whether they're going to use forks, knives, spoons, chopsticks, everything has to be taught. It all has to be programmed. And being born into any area, any culture, immerses the being, the baby, the child, into cultural programming. And I don't want to go against any specific cultural programming that's out there, because none of them are good. None of them are good. Have children, send them to war to die? Not good programming. Not good at all. This person is your enemy because of the country they come from, the color of their skin, their religious belief. Not good. That God wants us to fight and die because we're the chosen people, and every people is a chosen people from the inside, but from the outside, everyone else is the enemy. Really bad programming. And that programming goes back to the beginning, not of necessarily the country, but the beginning of the culture. And because many countries are taken over by, as well, especially Rome, and England's been really good. We've had some very large empires, Persian Empire, Ottoman Empire, and things are layered, deeply layered. The piece that all of these programmings have in common is the fact that they teach people that God is on the outside, not the inside, that the voice that rises within, our personal truth, what is authentic to us, is not true. That we have to have an intermediary, and that God is on the outside. We all basically have Stockholm Syndrome, and it's been programmed into us. We are held hostage to heaven, to hell, to the church, to the synagogue, to the temple, whatever it's called, in duty to that. And it does not matter a great deal whether we're actively part of the religion at this point or not. It is so deeply ingrained into the culture around us that for a great deal it's automatic. It doesn't go through the thinking process of the mind unless we look into it and bring it up and bring it out and come to realize that this is the area of our work. And our ancestors, because wherever you go, there you are, when they die, when they pass, and they move into the false dimensional realities, the created dimensional realities, all the heavens, all the hells, the happy hunting grounds, whatever it's been called inside the culture or conglomerate cultures that we've been raised in. We have very rarely been given critical thinking. Some people take it in college. Some people look into it. But our beliefs on the differences between male and female, what type of sexuality is accepted and what type is not, all of this is programmed. And that programming happens, well, first off, it's contained genetically. And it's triggered through our lifetime, which shifts and changes. It has to do with belief in disease. You're not thinking about it, or maybe you are, but you're not purposely turning on cancer cells, but you do trigger them, and you can turn them on, because deep in the subconscious, that's where your belief is. And the belief in allopathic and osteopathic medicine in the West is crippling more than just this country, more than America, but other Western cultures as well. So, understand, when I speak of programming, I'm not speaking about a belief, I'm speaking about a fact. An absolute fact. We are born with certain instincts. The rest of it we have to be taught. You can't put a 3-month-old child out in the woods and have them survive and have skills for life. They have to be taught. That teaching is programming. That teaching, that programming, comes from the culture, comes from the family, comes from the media, comes from what is and is not acceptable as we interact through schooling. And our schooling is the heaviest level of programming that there is. We become a part of. It's the beginning of the military program. It's definitely a war structure and war belief programming because of how we are focused into history. It is not focused to give us specific life skills that are aligned with what we are or are not good at. It is focused and structured to make us obey the system and believe the version of history, even the type of mathematics that's used or done, every increment, every bit of the way. It's to dial us into a certain perspective. Hi, you. Hi. I didn't even know if anybody'd come on at all tonight because it was so late. But like I said, I like to keep my word. I really intended this to be more about 7 or 7:30 this evening, but you know. Actually, it is selective. Different areas have different type of programming that actually put us against one another racially, put us against one another. We're taught not to see that this is an elitist oligarchy. Anthony, we're always dialed in on these things. We're in the same wave, even though I'm old and he's not. But, well, he is ancient. And some of us don't do well in school because we are not programmable at that level. I was born remembering. I wasn't programmable in my family level. I was going, oh, yeah, this isn't true. That's not true. That's not God. And my father was always, oh, you think the whole world is wrong and you're right? And I'm like, yeah, I do. I don't think it's right to wage war. I don't think it's right to spend on destruction when we need to spend on life. I don't think it's right to go out and have a whole bunch of children that you can't feed. And I don't think it's right not to educate in what is actually necessary, like clean water, clean food, correct growing, what we need to keep our bodies alive and healthy. I do not believe that it is correct to teach that God is outside of us rather than inside of us and all around us. And now we're going through this huge wave where people are going, you create your own reality. Okay, I went through that back in the 80s and was working with Jane Roberts and the Seth materials, and you create your own reality. Well, we do, but we don't, because this is a co-creation, and we are co-creating our realities in groups of consciousness and intermingling that co-creation, but it is not coming from the beta mind. We are not teaching our children correctly for the most part. I took my son to see the Dalai Lama for Seeds of Compassion. I was guested, which was really awesome, and they came and put me in a really nice, seat, front row, side position, and my son's sitting listening to it, and he's the #1 non-practicing Buddhist in the world, and he's sitting here next to me, and he's going, this is dumb. I said, why do you think this is dumb? And he goes, well, this isn't anything new. And I said, well, actually, for this era, this is new, and it's a very large group. And he goes, but this is how you raised me. And I go, well, you were part of the experiment. And going into different neighborhoods, different areas, going beyond cities and urban areas into rural areas, we can see where people in urban areas are exposed to all of these little pods of neighborhoods that have their own cultural parts and pieces and are very ingrained, but they're metropolitan and they're exposed to other cultures, other races, different levels of education, art, music, the sciences. Everything's available, or not everything, but a great many things are available. And you go into the suburban areas and there's less available, but there's some interaction between the suburban and the urban areas. And then you go out into the rural areas and people are kind of like it's the 1930s sometimes. It depends on what part of the country you're in, and probably depends on what country you're in and what area of what country. But moving into an area where we start educating ourselves with the fact that we have been programmed, and we go into that programming and we bring out or melt down, it's actually synaptic synaptic movements. I'm not going to be able to say whatever this word is, but it's a synaptic process. And we can end some of the bridging and move pieces out of the subconscious and start reprogramming, emptying and reprogramming layer after layer, level after level. And we can start programming our children from the beginning, from the very beginning. My child and the children of my friends have multicultural, multiracial, multinational pieces, and they exposure to artists and doctors and attorneys, farmers, and people that bred horses and people that hunted for their meat, and fishermen. Just huge, huge pools of different people, the diversity, which is so important, and respecting the people and respecting the diversity, and learning to see and understand these layers. This needs to be taught to our children. And we need to repattern ourselves. The first piece I'm putting out to all of you is the essence of God. Divinity lies within. There was anciently specific truths that were taught, and they have built or written the books that program people. The Bible, the Quran, all of these lovely documents that you can go through and see these beautiful bits and pieces of the truth buried inside the programming that they use to control us. The pieces that make those truths come together and actually work have been withheld. And at this point, they're very much experiential. You'll search and search. You can go down to the bare bones. But when you go down to those bare bones, almost every one of those are telling you God is on the outside. A creator God. You're human divinity. You're a creating divine being yourself. God is indwelling if you create of yourself a temple. And through your work, your speech, your interactions, you change the world. Hi Tracy, you just came in and I'm just about to wrap up. I'm going to say, do any of you have any questions? That's got to be Anthony. This is the first time I've ever admitted to this to anyone, but dying confirmed that for me. Yeah, dying will do it. I've died several times myself, and every time it confirms it more, because every time I come back, I'm different. I'm more. And I'm highly changed. Feeling like a superhuman, yeah, absolutely, because all of these different, actually it's from our Ka, but all of these different memories, all of this knowledge opens, and it actually begins to open when we start structuring the bodies correctly, the Egyptian bodies, which are all of the bodies, but this is where we're pulling it from, and the chakras become at 4 octaves, and we actually opened up the minds, the lenses, the chakra perspectives. Then we're opening up dimensional perspectives here in this reality, and yes, we become genius. And our brain is not what's doing the work. It's not our brain. The brain is an interface for the energies of the higher spheres that come in, and for the energies of what works our body. What works our body purposefully and what works our body automatically. But constant transformation, yes, absolutely, Tracy. I've known Tracy for a very, very long time, and very fabulous woman. And I have watched massive transformations, not just by Tracy, but Tracy creates transformation around her. And she puts people in place. She knows where to put people, where they can create transformation, where it's wanted, where it's going to be accepted, where people are ready. She's really gifted with this. And hello, Carol Baker. One of the reasons that I haven't been doing very many lives, or actually I don't think I've done any lives for a few weeks, is I'm creating my new website, Body of Unification. I'm going to be having a podcast come out. I've got a lot of things online, and the courses are actually going on underneath of this as they're growing and changing. I've got another Semitawi, a women's empowerment, that's starting this weekend. Switching from brain to instinct. Yeah. It's a different kind of instinct, though. It's not a body, animal level instinct. It's an instinct of mind and intuition. Oh, Anthony, you're starting to channel. Not just flipping channels in your music, but you're actually starting to channel energy awarenesses and your divinity. That's what your divinity is made up of. So, and it's been really awesome being able to be part of what's going on with Anthony, because I've made myself available for some pieces for Anthony, because he died, and I know what that is. And he came back, and he came back changed, and he was changed in a specific manner. I'm glad you picked that up. So there's a divine function that's beginning to move through Anthony, and actually there's 3 divine functions that are moving through Anthony that are creating a triangulation and are creating a communication that's moving through, that he's translating through words and music. And that's what we begin to do as we open up our divine creativity. And we must walk in honor of other people's choices. But that does not mean we have to be party to the programming that's out there, or respect the damage that's being done and being created here. I am super excited about the new Semitawi class, and I'm going to be putting a class together for men next month, and I'm very excited. I've got a little test group. It's real important for me to put a really deep and intense foundation in for my courses, not just my work, but the work of many others, and over a period of time before I put the course material out, even though some of them, I don't know if you understand this, but I'm taken into tombs and taught moving through tombs into what are like paintings, open up into realities, and I've been being taught like this since I was 3. So I still like to make sure that it's yeah, I'm the one getting tested. Can I do it? Can I teach it? Can I become the stream of information? Can I get out of the way and allow this stream to move through and connect? And is it going to be effective? Is there, safeties inside this? Because this is massive change. Yeah, that's why the pharaohs are there. That's why they're mummified, to keep the Ka and the Ba in communication from the Temple of Stars. So yeah, they anchor that. That's why the bodies are there. That's why the elements are bound inside the tombs, is to have a place. And actually, they taught this way in ancient Egypt. This was a way to move into the netters, because Holy of Holies and the inner of inner was deep, was within, was buried, actually buried. And having to project yourself and not your astral body. An astral body cannot enter his teaching realms. You must be an Asayu or Saho. I've heard it pronounced several different ways. Never by a Copt or Coptic person, so I don't know how close it's ever been to correct. All you have to do is know and take the jump. You've died, and you've been given entrance at certain points. I had already died and been brought back, resuscitated. By the time I was 3, they broke my neck when I was born. The forceps baby broke the neck, blue, dead, resuscitated. I have no idea who or what was supposed to be inhabiting this form. I don't know. But it's changed every time. I'm not real willing to go through it again. But dying over and over again is actually part of the said ceremony. It's part of becoming a pharaoh or one of the great sages in order to awaken some of the bodies. You're sealed, Stephanie. Everyone's energy bodies have been sealed. That was what they did in ancient Egypt when they were taken by when the Sumerians started ruling. The little problem with Moses was different in Egypt and different for the Egyptians. And when the Sumerians came in to create the false temple system, to bring their false temple system to overlay into Egypt's as above, so below, everything was sealed, including us. And we became more and more sealed as the eras went forward, as we were hunted as the ones who were supposed to teach. And we're actually called in because of the ability to run power through physical bodies. Because we all have different levels of awakeness. And there are those who, it's hard, when I was a little girl, what do you want to be when you grow up? Well, I want to be the Queen of Heaven. I wanted to be a high priestess. I didn't have a word for it. And so, I want to be an archaeologist. I want to be a sociologist. I want to be a psychologist. I was born to be an arch priestess. And so I'm a mythical being. And we were sealed, and there are courses for it. And it's dangerous. Like I said, this is something that, speaking with Anthony, that we've died for. And it's dangerous to open them up. I do open them. I have the structure for them. Ancient Powers 1 is the first level of those structures. And then the second level is the shamanic levels and etc. But it goes through the entire said ceremonies. Test you for what? I can tell where people are activated and where they aren't because I have the ability to see the frequencies. Not just auras, not just the earth grid. I see many, many different levels of frequencies. Superstring, string, algebraic topology, the cosmological, what most people call it is cosmology, moving cosmology. There's multitudes of layers. It's not actually layers, it's integrated mesh or web that actually come in and begin orbiting. Yeah, we get these little pieces like dead on, and then the other pieces are full of the programming. Really have to strip the programming. One of the things that, as I started going deeper into channeling, I started about 13-year-old. Yeah, I started channeling at about 14, and I was taking other people into past lives at that time, and into the other realities and the other structures, and it often comes with the changes in our endocrine system. Actually, all of this has to do with changes in the endocrine system, which is part of why it's so dangerous. But I am at the end of my little 30-minute piece here. I am going to be coming on again more often. I'm going to have a little bit more time. I got some help with the website, and I actually finally figured out the structure. If I don't have a structure, I got to have the bones, or I can't put in, you know, the nerves and the organs and the flesh and all the parts and pieces. So I got that piece, and we're flowing forward, and I'm going to have some more time. The astral plane is part of what is called the matrix by a lot of people, and it's a construction. It's a consciousness construction in 4D, and all of the constructed heavens and hells, all of the dimensions. If you find angels there, you're in a constructed piece. I love all of you, and I'm really honored that I have had, 5, 6, 7 of you people come on so late, and without any warning, really. It's like, oh yeah, I'm going to be on in 7 minutes, hey. I really love this, and actually, there's a lot of there's a lot of darkness. The darkness is necessary for the light. It has to do with the helix and the form that it takes, and so we don't like too much light, and we don't like too much darkness. Balancing throughout all the layers, and great deal of color. Every color is a tone. We love sound. So, blessings, Carol. It was so good to see you. And this is Linda Marie, and thank you for allowing me to have your time tonight. And blessings, Neferka. I'm glad you were here too, Anthony. Thank you. Bye.